Okay, so good morning to one and all. We are going to start with a new chapter of your unit 2. Okay, and as I told you, we have total 5 chapters in your second unit. We have completed 3. That is, one is request to dispatcher, one is cookies, and one is session. Okay, and one important chapter is your non-blocking IO that we are going to do it today, and it is the lengthiest one in your unit 2. Okay, and we are going to start with, this is the 5th chapter basically of your unit 2, so we are not doing the 4th chapter first, we will do it in the last once we complete the 5th chapter. Okay, so I'll just start with the chapter name is non-blocking IO. Okay, now we'll start with the introduction first. So the term called as IO, I hope everyone is aware, that is like for input output. Fine. So instead of going directly to the term called as non-blocking IO, first we will try to understand the word called as IO. Okay, and there will be like a blocking IO, and then we'll switch to the non-blocking IO. Fine. So now basically, as I told you, the IO stands for what? Input output, which is going to refer to the interface which is been available between your computer and the rest of the world. That means whatever request and response or whatever input sending from the client end to the server, and whatever the output is been coming from the server to the client, is all happens with the help of your input output mechanism. Okay, this IO is present between your or you can say inside your operating system, which will help you to have that communication with the outside world. Fine. Now we have a term called as blocking IO. Why there was a blocking IO, and then why there is a requirement of non-blocking IO. Okay, so we are going to study the difference between the blocking IO and the non-blocking IO also. So first of all, we have to understand that what do you mean by blocking IO. Okay, so now say for example, I just want to read or write the data. If you remember students, we have done one whole chapter in your SY, that is your file input output stream. Okay, so we are just going to carry some concepts from there also. So if you have studied that chapter, at least during the lectures also, if you have learned properly or listened properly, then you can understand the maximum concepts in this chapter. Okay, so now as I was telling you, the blocking IO is like something where I am trying to read or write the data into the file. Okay, maybe that file is present inside your server, so I'm trying to read the data which is present inside the file which is there into the server, or I'm trying to write some data into the file which is again present inside your server. Okay, so now I have to wait till my data is completely written, or I have to completely, just wait a second students. Okay, I just have to wait for the data to be written completely or been read completely from the file which is present inside your server. Till your data has been completely read or written, okay, I am not going to have any other input output work with your server. So that means whichever channel you are going to use, whichever option you are going to use for having that communication with the server, where you're going to read some data or you're going to write some data. Okay, so what is going to happen, basically you will be blocking that channel. Okay, your client and server both are going to block the channel until and unless you are going to complete your reading and writing part. Fine. Now the Java IO basically is going to work with the various streams. Okay, that all streams which we are going to work in terms of blocking IO, okay, they're all going to block my reading and writing mechanism. Okay, and here where I am going to have a single thread who is going to deal with or who is going to handle with this kind of reading and writing. So if you remember your programs, okay, what we have done for the file input stream, file output stream, what used to happen, we used to have only one single thread by default, that is your main thread. Okay, so that main thread was responsible to invoke either read method or a write method. Okay, if I like, I hope that you remember all those things I told you in SY also. Whenever we talk about one single program, so by default we have one single thread available. Okay, and that thread is responsible to execute all the things what we have written inside a program. Okay, it is going to read or write method. Okay, it is going to have a read and write method which is going to be invoked while reading and writing from the file. Okay, now that thread is going to be blocked until there is some data available for the read or some data available to be written into the file. So means, if you remember the, like, even if you are not remembering the whole, I'll just revise it. So we used to have one Java file which we used to write the, where we used to write the file input stream, buffered input stream statements, and we used to have a text file. Okay, so for example, I am having 100 lines of statements written in the text file, which my program needs to read it. Okay, and as a response it should generate all those content without opening that file manually into your console. Okay, so that was a scenario which we have created. Now basically your thread is going to block until and unless your read method is going to get invoked, and with the help of the read method all those 100 lines of statements are going to be read and given the response back to the client. Till the time your IO mechanism is going to get blocked. So that means if anything else, like for example if any other client wants to have that same access to the same content, it has to wait. Okay, till the first one is going to get free, because there is only one channel to the server which is going to work for all the requests for all the clients, and that channel needs to get free for one client, then only it can allocate to the other one. Fine. Now until the relevant operation is going to get complete, the thread cannot do nothing else but they have to wait. That means one thread, if it is getting executed with the server, the another thread needs to wait until and unless the first one is going to get free. Okay, so to fulfill the concurrent request from the concurrent clients with this approach, from this blocking IO approach, we are not going to work. It is not going to help me because it is going to increase the waiting time period. Okay, so we need another approaches where we am going to have an option of multiple threads. Okay, and if you remember, we have also studied about this, how to create a multiple threads in a program. Okay, so by default we have one which is going to help me to do this IO mechanism, but we have an option to create a multiple threads in our program which will help to the numbers of the clients to have multiple requests and concurrent requests to the server, and that can be handled by individual thread, and it can be generating the response also for the clients. Okay, so here blocking IO is believing only a single thread option available, which is going to invoke the read and write method of an individual client's request. If I want to make the concurrent request to be to be passed to the server, and then it should be generating the response for the client, for that need we should have a multiple threads. Okay, which is not possible with your blocking IO approach. Now I'll just give you an example. Say, for example, I have a server, and if you remember, like, I don't know whether you have learned about this term called a server socket or not, but still, I'll just give you a brief about this. We have a specific, class inside your Java. Say, for example, like we had a package called util.star, and then we had io.star. So we also had a package called as java.net.star. Okay, so net is term for the networks. So whenever we are going to deal with the remote sessions, or whenever we're going to work within the network, so we have a package called as net.star. So from that star we are going to have numbers of classes or the interfaces available which we can use for creating the connection to the server, for creating the connection to the client. So here we have a one specific interface called as server socket. Okay, now this server socket is going to be written inside your server as well as in your client. So what is going to happen, basically the server socket is responsible to have the request from the client from a specific port. So obviously whenever I am going to have a client which is going to send a request, so it is coming from a specific port, from specific IP address, okay, from specific network address. So basically what is going to happen, this server socket is going to listen to those requests which is coming from a specific port number. Okay, and then the server is going to bound to this port. That means it is going to try to establish the connection with those client, with that line which is sending the request for the connection to the server. Okay, now first thing what we have to do it over here, we have to build a connection between client and the server. So we cannot have the direct communication with the server. We have to go through the server socket. What server socket is going to do for me is it is going to first of all accept the port number from the specific request or from the specific line. Okay, once it is accepting those connection, till it is going to pass it to the server directly to have that communication with the client, the server socket is going to get blocked. So if at all any other request is coming from any other client, it is not going to be accepted by your server socket because currently your server socket has been blocked. Okay, so I'll just give you the syntax how you're going to first of all create a server socket in your program. So we have a server socket interface. This is going to be your object. Okay, this is like your constructor, and what we have over here, we have a port number. So we have to just mention inside this constructor the port number to which my server socket wants to accept the connection. Okay, so this is like one part we have done. Now you have to understand the next thing. As I told you, we have a client. Okay, we have a server socket, and we have a socket for the server to which the client needs to get connected directly. Okay, right now what we are doing, we are just having the server socket which is going to accept the request from the client, and what it's supposed to do, it should pass that request to the server, and the server is directly going to handle that request from the client. There will be direct one-to-one connection between the client and the server will establish. Okay, so having that connection directly, one-to-one connection between client and server, it has to go from the server socket. Okay, now what is going to happen once the connection is going to build between your client and the server is also having one socket present which is like responsible to have that port number. Like the client is having one socket which is nothing but which is responsible to send the port numbers to the servers, and the server is going to have the another socket present inside the server which is responsible to accept that port number which is client, from where the client is coming. Now once the server socket is redirecting the request to the socket of the server socket is going to get free over here, and it is ready to accept the another request from the another client. Till that time it is not passing that request to the socket of the server socket is going to get allocated, or it is going to be, it is not free. Basically it is going to be like present for this specific client. Once it is like establishing the one-to-one connection with the server, it is going to get free. For that need, what we have to do it, we have to have one method called as accept method. Okay, now that we are going to write inside the, or we can say we are going to write the socket method or socket, you can say the interface. Okay, so this is like your socket interface whose object we have created. This object we have created for this interface, and we are going to have the object of your server socket. So if you can see what is the object of your server socket interface, this was the object name where I am accepting the port number from where the request is coming. Now I'll just go to the next statement where I am going to have a socket. So the server socket was this, and this is the socket of your server. So this is a two different term, don't get confused. Okay, so this is one server socket which is going to listen to the request from the client, will try to have or will try to understand the socket number or a port number which is coming from a client, and it has been redirected to your socket interface of your server. Now we had an object of the previous interface, that was a server socket. Fine. Now what I have to do, I have to write one accept method over here. I'm going to code for this also, I'm going to code for this also. So what will be the basic structure now? Client is sending request to this, it is going to accept the port number from here as we did in the last slide. Once the port number has been accepted here, it is going to be redirected to here, and here there should be something written to accept that port number, to accept that request from the server socket. So what I have to do it, I have to use an object of this, and I have to invoke the accept method which I am going to write it over here. Okay, so while writing the accept method with the help of, the object of this, my the port number and the request is going to get from the server socket to the socket. So because of that, what will happen, there will be a direct communication is going to form between your client and the socket. So basically your server socket is passing that request to your socket now, and it is getting free. Okay, so how you're going to do, you're going to have a socket interface, we are going to have an object for this which is going to be used in future again. So this is the object of your server socket interface, and we are invoking the accept method. That means we are trying to accept the request from the server socket. The server is trying to accept the request from the server socket. Okay, so this is like one type of a gateway, or it is one type of a port through which the request must come to the server. Okay, and server must accept that request which is coming from this gateway from the client. Okay, I hope you have understood this. If you have not, you can put it in the chat box. I'll again explain to you. Now, next, what we are going to have, we are going to have an input output stream. So, but obviously, if once we have established the connection between your client and the server using the server socket, what we have to do now, we have to start the communication with the server as a client. Okay, and what we are supposed to do, we have to send some input values, we have to get some output values. So for that need, we have an input output stream. If I want to read something from the file which is present inside the server, in that communication which we have built it, or the connection which we have established. Okay, or else if I want to write something into the file which is present in server, I can do with the help of an output stream. Okay, now I'll just give you a brief. Like, we had two different parts when we studied about that chapter called as file input output stream. So we had a byte stream classes, we had a character stream classes. Okay, so in byte stream we had file input stream, buffer input stream, data input stream, sequence input stream. Okay, and file output stream, buffer output stream, data output stream. Okay, so like that way we had 7 classes in your byte stream, or you can say the hierarchy which we had for the byte stream. Now, when I talk about the character stream, what is going to happen? The stream word, okay, the input stream word is going to be replaced by your reader. Also, your output stream keyword is going to be replaced by your writer. So also we had that file reader, file writer, buffered reader, buffered writer. Okay, so like that way we had few classes inside your character stream, print writer. So this all we have studied already in your SY. So we are just going to implement it over here. So for input output stream, we need the help of the few classes which we have studied. That is going to be, one is your buffered reader class. Okay, now if you remember why we need that file input stream and file output stream, or you can talk about buffered reader, or sorry, file reader or a file writer. So your input stream and output stream classes which is present inside your byte stream is going to read your data in the form of bytes. Okay, secondly, the character stream is going to read your data in the form of characters. The only difference is that, so second difference is going to be what? The length of the data which your input output stream, or you can talk about the byte stream, is reading is less comparatively your character stream. Okay, in an example, if I can give you, say for example, 8 bytes of data has been read in your byte stream, or you can say 16 bits of character has been read into your character stream. So the length of the character which is going to be read or written in your character stream is more than your byte stream. Fine, so that is the difference we have. So what we are going to do it over here, so as obviously we are not going to have a small length of data, so we are going to go to the character stream classes, because where we have an option to have the character values in the more numbers, where I'm going to be able to read more numbers of data as comparatively your byte stream class. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm making the use of buffered reader. I'm not going with the file reader, because there is like the data which has been read inside your file reader or a buffered reader. The only difference is that the reading of the data is going to happen from the buffer which we are going to create. It is not directly going to be read from the file reader file, or we can say where the file is stored into the server. Okay, the data which is written inside your file, which I am supposed to read as a client, that data is going to get present first of all in the buffer which has been connected to your file in this server. The data has been read from your buffer, not from your directly files. Okay, so it is not going to have direct communication with the file. It is going to put some values into the buffer, the values of that file or the content of that file into the buffer. From the buffer we are going to read the data, so it is going to increase the performance also while reading and writing the data. Okay, now we are going to have a class called as buffered reader. We have an object, and this is your constructor again. So what we are going to do, we are just going to use an object. Okay, the object of what? Client socket. So what we have done, first thing, we have created an object of a server socket. Okay, there we have accepted a port number to which I want to get have that connection. Okay, the client's port number is going to be written inside your server socket. Okay, that you have to remember. Now, second step, what we have written, that we have created an object of your socket class. So that means there I am just accepting the request as well as the port number which is now inside your server socket, that needs to be given to the server, so that your server is going to have a direct communication with the client. So using an accept method, that accept method is been invoked by the object of your server socket. Okay, now in third step, what is going to happen? So if you just, if you just wanted to keep it in the mind, what is going to happen, your first step object is being used in your second step, and your second step object is going to be used in your third step. Okay, so this is your third step. What you are going to have, you're just going to have an object called as client socket, which was an object of your socket class, and you are going to invoke one method, that is what? Get input stream method. Now, what is going to happen with this method? It is going to help you to read the values of the content which has came from the request from a specific client. Okay, so always remember, when I talk about input stream, that means it is indicating that it is something we known for the reading. Okay, if I say reader, it is also meant for reading. Okay, when I say it is an output stream or it is a writer, so it is going to be meant for what? It is for writing the data into the file. Okay, so right now what I am doing, I am just trying to read the request which has came from the client. Okay, now similarly, if I want to make the display or just want to give the response, so I have a class called it as what? Print writer class, and we have used this class already in your servlet files. Okay, so there also you're going to use an object because you have to give the response back to your client. So we'll just use the object of a socket, and it is going to use which method now? Get output stream method. Fine. So when you are going to invoke get input stream method, it means you're going to read. When you're going to invoke a get output stream method, that means you're going to write the response. Fine. So this is how your input output stream also going to work. So what we are doing over here, one picture should be clear in your mind, that first the request along with the network address or a port number is going to pass to the server socket which is present inside your server, which is going to work like a gateway, which is going to accept that port number. We'll pass that port number to the server, to the server's socket, that is going to accept that request from the gateway called as server socket with the help of an accept method. Once that acceptance happen, your server socket is going to get free, and then your direct communication is going to build between your client and the server. Okay, now the server socket is ready to accept some other request from some other client. Now, once that connection is going to establish, what we have to do, we have to make an input, output, or we can say have a request and response directly with the server. So for having the input, or we can say for having the request to be sent to this server, your server needs to read that request with the help of an buffered reader class, or you can say a method called as get input stream method. And whenever I'm going to write some values to the client, or if I just want to generate some response for the client, I'm going to have a print writer class or a get output stream method. Okay, so this is how you're going to have an input output between your client and the server. Now, when I'm going to have a request and response, I'm just declaring the two variables over here. One thing which has also been carried from your SY. So if you remember, whenever we used to write the code for your byte stream, or you can talk about the character stream, there we also has to have one while condition. Okay, why we need to have that while condition? Because we just wanted to check whatever value we are or whatever content we are trying to read or we are trying to write into the file, whether it is empty or not. Okay, so now say for example, whenever I'm talking about the request object, means what is happening, I'm trying to read the value from the file which is present inside your server. Okay, so if you can see over here, we had a server socket, we had number of clients. So first client would have approached to the server will be having the server socket first, which is going to listen to the port number of this client, and it is been passed to the socket of the server. Okay, so there's only not only one socket is going to be created inside your server, there will be n number of sockets are going to be created inside your server to deal with the individual request or individual client. Okay, so now this client is going to send a port number to this, the server socket is going to create a socket for this server for this specific client, and when it is been created, the server socket is going to establish the communication, direct communication between this, and read and write is going to happen, and then it is going to get free. Again it's going to listen to the some other port number, again it is been allocating the other socket, similarly with the third one. Okay, now whenever the first line considering that it is going to request something, or it is trying to read some content which is represent in one of the file inside the server, so what is going to happen, it is going to have one condition. Okay, that condition is saying that whatever I am requesting, whatever I'm trying to read, okay, it is first of all going to be read line by line. Okay, when I talk about the byte stream, the length of the data is less, which is going to be read. When I talk about the character stream, the length of the data is going to be more comparatively a byte stream. Okay, so whenever I'm going to read the data with the help of the read line method, okay, considering that if it is not equals to null, that means I am expecting that whatever values I am trying to read from here, from the file which is present inside your server, is not equal. That means there is going to be some content present inside your file. Okay, and if at all the condition gets satisfied, that means if the data which I'm trying to read, okay, if it is not equals, that means it is having some values, it is carrying some information, okay, it should be sent back to the client. So what is going to happen, I'm going to have two variables. I'm just considering that the request object is going to hold the value. Okay, that value is going to be what, so I'm having a condition saying that if the data which I am trying to read with the help of a readline method, and if it is not equals to null, so that means all those values are now going to get stored into your request. Okay, and if it is not empty, what should happen, I'm going to have another object over here, another type of variable, that is something called as what, response, which is going to hold the value of that request. Okay, now to have the value of the request, I have a specific method called as what, process the request. Okay, so process request is a method which is going to process the request value which is getting stored from this condition, and that value is going to get stored inside your response, that is going to be printed with the help of print statement when you call this variable name inside your print statement. Okay, now what happened, the request has been sent over here, the response has been sent over here, read and write happens over here, it has checked whether the file which I'm trying to read is not null. Okay, I hope you have understood. Now we have some drawbacks for this approach. Okay, like if I'm talking about the threads, so what is going to happen, the memory allocation which is going to happen to a specific request, okay, is going to have, like, you know, what you can say, the waiting time first of all is going to get increased. Okay, and as the number of connections are going to get increased, that means the numbers of requests are going to come more from the client end. So what is going to happen, we don't have the multi-thread, options available here. So what is going to happen, it has to switch from one client to the another client. Once it is completing the whole procedure of one client, it is going to switch to the another one, so the waiting time is going to get increased. Okay, so this blocking IO approach is said that it is not ideal if you have a large number of clients. Okay, it can work moderately to your small number of clients, that will be very much fine if you're having small number of clients or a small number of requests, less number of requests I can say. Okay, so it is ideal for those kind of situations, but it is not for the large number of clients request. Okay, so that because of this disadvantage and the drawback, we have come across with one concept called as non-blocking IO. Okay, so the whatever drawbacks we had in the blocking IO, now it is been removed inside your non-blocking IO. Okay, so non-blocking IO is not going to wait for the data to be read or written before returning some response from the server. No, it is not going to wait. Okay, it is going to have the concept of multi-threading first of all. Okay, now here you have to understand what we have done, what we have seen in this program, in this diagram. For one client we have one socket. Now what non-blocking I was going to do, it is going to use some of the other technology available, okay, which is going to be like only one thing is responsible to handle the multiple request. Okay, so for example in between this I am going to have one, you know, separate thing available. Okay, that is handling the multiple threads. That means that technology is able, that is that technology has been developed in such a way that it is going to handle multiple requests. Okay, multiple threads it can create for the multiple clients. Fine, so that we are going to see over here. So we'll just have first of all the theoretical part, and then I'll switch back to the diagrams, what where I can let you know clearly that what non-blocking IO is. Okay, so now whenever I talk about the NIO based system, that is non-blocking input output based system, so what is going to happen, we are not going to use a word called as read and write. Instead of writing data into the output stream or reading the data from the input stream, we are not going to have read and write option directly from the server from where the file is stored. I told you that we have a concept called as buffer. Okay, so we are going to create a buffer outside the server, or you can even create inside your server, where it is going to hold the content of the actual files, and your client is going to have the reading and writing from the buffer. Okay, which has also been considered as a temporary storage place. Fine, there is going to be the different types of Java NIO buffer class which is there already available in your Java, which is also been known as what NIO buffer classes. That can be your byte buffer, that can be your char buffer, that can be your short buffer. There are a number of other classes available in your Java NIO. So like for example we had an IO package. Okay, so that is java.io.star. So here, if I want to deal with the NIO features, so we are going to have what java.nio.star. Okay, so there is a specific different package we have inside our Java, that is nio.star, which is consisting of numbers of classes. Fine. Now, most of the network programs, whichever we are going to do or which we are going to use is, you know, exclusively we are going to use which class, that is a byte buffer class. Fine. Now, I just wanted to give you the terms like we are going to use in future. So the first term which we are going to have is what? Channels. Okay. Now in Java NIO, so the channel is something being known as what? A medium through which the data is going to be transferred, or it is going to be passed from your client to the byte buffers. So you have to understand over here, it has been written as what? Between the entity. Entity is a client. Okay. And the byte buffer is the class which is going to accept the request from the client. Fine. So we are going to have a channel between your client as well as between your client and the byte buffers, from where the data is going to be read from the client by the client, and it is going to also write the data inside your buffer. Okay. Now again, the channel is going to work like a gateway which is being provided by your Java NIO. Okay, which is having the full access to the IO mechanism of your operating system. Fine. Whenever I talk about that accessing of IO mechanism, that means the IO mechanism which is present inside your operating system. So basically your channel is having the full access, or it can have one-to-one relationship with the IO mechanism of your operating system. Okay. Now your NIO is also been considered that it is going to provide me a platform independent operational feature. That means it is nowhere dependent on the IO mechanism of a specific operating system. It can work to any type of IO mechanism of any type of operating system. We know that Java is been considered as a platform independent. So whatever packages or libraries we have in our Java, maybe it is NIO, it is also going to have that feature. So whenever I'm going to have this kind of, non-blocking input output operation with your operating system, which is also itself having one type of IO mechanism present inside it, is going to work independently. Okay. Now we are going to have this like basic, you can talk about the structure, how you're going to use a channel interface. So channel is itself a one type of an interface present inside your NIO package. Okay, so when I talk about to import the NIO package in my program, how we are going to do, import java.nio.star. So when we talk about star, so the channel is the interface which is present inside your NIO. Okay, so I don't have to, again create that channel interface inside the program. As I told you in the previous chapters also, as if I am having, numbers of interfaces, say HTTP servlet request and HTTP servlet response, HTTP session, I don't have to create the way we create the user defined interfaces. Okay. Interface name, like that way we don't have to do it. What we can do over here, in NIO, if you can, if you like, if it is there in your question, like if it is there in your mind, the question is like why it has been created over here, because the channel which we are going to use, it is like with coming small c. Okay, and the interface which we have created is coming with capital C. To avoid this confusion, always give a separate name, some different name over here. Okay, now we have two methods available, that is close method, or we can have an open method, or we can also have a close method, simply close method. Okay, so obviously when I'm going to use an is close method for this particular channel interface, I'm just checking whether the channel is closed or not. Okay, or else if I deliberately want to close the channel interface once I am just done with all the input output stream work, so I can simply say that close method. I can just invoke the method called as close. Okay, now open method is going to help me to open the channel for having the communication between your client and the server. Now how your channel is going to work, so if I'll just tell you, this all our clients, this is your server which is having a single thread, and I'm going to have a channel. Now here the channel is nothing, but I'll just show you what do you mean by this. This is something which we have created, something called as channel. Okay, so this is something, a channel which is responsible for reading and writing. Fine, this is not channel, this is something else, the different concept. Okay, so from your client the reading and writing should happen using channel, means this is the channel which we are going to create. Okay, this is going to be one medium through which the channel, or through which the reading and writing is going to happen. Okay, now there is another term, there is another technology you can talk about. There is one term called it as what, selector. Okay, so this selector is basically going to be present inside between your client and the server. So if you remember in the blocking IO, what used to happen, we used to have a server socket inside your server which is responsible to listen to the request which is coming from the client. Okay, now here what is going to happen, we're not going to have anything inside your server, but we are going to have between your client and the server, that is going to be one term, called it as what, a selector. Okay, so this selector has been designed in such a way that it is able to handle the multiple client requests. It can have multiple threads been created inside this. Okay, and which is responsible to have the request from the client, and it is been passed to your server. The server can generate a response, multiple response, and it is being redirected to the specific client and the correct responses to each client. Fine, so this is how your channel and this is how your selector is going to work. Fine, now I'll just have what you can say, we will just see how to create a simple NIO based client and a server. First of all, what we have to see, we just have to look at the server code, like what we are going to write towards your, like inside your server code. So first task what we have to do is we have to create a selector. Okay, which is responsible to handle the multiple channels. Okay, so this is like multiple channels which we have created for your client, from where the request is going to come, and the selector should be responsible to handle those multiple channels and those multiple requests. Okay. Now, here it is going to allow the server to find all the connections that are that are ready to receive the output or send the input. So that means the selector is responsible, which is also going to help to the server. The server should accept all the connections which is going to happen from the or with the client with the help of the selector, which is going to present between your client and the server. Okay. How you're going to create a selector? First of all, in your server code, you have a specific interface called as selector. You're going to have a object. If you get confused, simply write ABC or whatever other name you can write, you can have it over here. Okay, is equals to, we can have an method called as what? Open. So I'm just going to invoke that with the help of again the selector name. Okay, so the method called as open is going to help me to open the selector uh, for the client's request. Okay, that means it is open to accept the request from the client. Now it is open to handle the connection from the different clients or the multiple clients. Once the open method is invoked, what we have to do it, we just have to create. Now again that the same thing what we have done, the server socket channel we have uh, called as server socket channel in the non-blocking. So when I talk about the blocking IO, there we had only the server socket. Okay, here in non-blocking, the server socket of your blocking IO is been replaced by the another class called it as what? Server socket channel. Okay, and we are going to create an object for that, and we are also going to have a same method, that is what? Open method. That means now your server socket channel which is present inside your server is also now open to accept the request which is going to come from the selector. Selector is responsible to listen to all the requests from the clients, and your server socket channel is responsible to accept the client's response, a client's request from the selector, which selector is going to redirect to the server. Okay, this statement is saying that I just want to make it non-blocking. Okay, so if I want to just configure the input output mechanism, I just want to make it non-blocking. So what I have to do, the server socket channel is maybe going to have that waiting time, or it is also going to have that blocking IO mechanism. So what I have to do it, I have to instruct to this specific class. How I'm going to do that? I'm just going to use an object and making it configured in such a way that I'm making a parameter return to be here, that is false. That means the blocking is not going to happen. Okay, so that means what I'm doing, the server socket channel is not going to have a blocking IO. It is open for the non-blocking IO mechanism. Okay, now after that I am having an option called as to listen to the host name and the port number. But obviously if I have multiple clients, I have to identify them with their host name and the port number from where the request is coming. Then only if I'm generating a response, I may be able to send the request, or I can send the response for the specific port number or an host number of the client. Otherwise what will happen, I can send the response to any of the client if the client has not requested that. So it is going to be the jumble which is going to happen among the responses for your client. So I have to identify the client, and as per that I have to send the response to the specific client. That I'm going to do with the help of host name and port number. So if you remember that we had one uh, package, that is net.star, which we had I think used in your AWT program, where I had that one program where I'm accepting the uh, domain name, and as per that domain name I was just displaying the IP address of that domain. Okay, so there I have used this inet address option. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to fetch an host address. So this is an object name, you can give any name over here, but this is a defined class name, that is inet socket address. This is responsible to accept the port number and the host name of the client. Okay, it is going to fetch the host name and the port number of a specific client. So what I'm going to do, this is a class which is responsible to accept host name and port number. This is an object which is going to carry that host name and port number. This is the constructor inside which I'm going to have that host number and host name and the port number. Okay, so whichever the host name is going to come of the client is going to get store it over here, and it is going to come into the port number, and both the things are going to get stored into the object. Fine. So just here we are going to end this term. I'm going to explain to you in the next lecture, but I hope that you have understood. Let me know, like I just wanted to know whether you have understood or not. You can just simply give it in the chat box, write it into the chat box, so that at least I know that you have understood something. Not all I am expecting, I will be revising it again. As I told you, it is something new which we are learning. Okay, it is not the same what we are learning till the last chapter. It was all about the servlet, it was all about the interfaces of the servlets, but it is something different. It is something related to the networks. Okay, so this we are going to do it. So here I'm just stopping, I'm just winding up the lecture. I'll just share the attendance link with you all. By that time, if you have any doubt, you can ask me.